Countless thousands of people have had near-death experiences. Now, a near-death experience is when a person is, by all means that we are able to test them, they are dead. And then they have some sort of an out-of-body experience. And then when they're brought back into this life, they're able to discuss it. That's a near-death experience. Again, there have been tens of thousands of these. Not all of them are of the same kind of evidential quality. Some of them, the person is able to come back and share some information that ends up being accurate that they could not have possibly known. Others, well, you just can't confirm it. So what we're going to be doing in this segment, we're going to be talking about a near-death experience that occurred with one of my former students. Her name is Charlotte Thomason, and she shared this in class at my one of my HBU classes, Houston Baptist University, a few years ago, and we ended up making a video. She had her daughter video record her, and then I edited some and uploaded it to our YouTube channel. And I think it has over 200,000 views so far. And so Charlotte has recently written a book, and so I wanted to feature her on this channel and let you all know a little more about Charlotte. So Charlotte, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for inviting me back. I'm excited to share a little bit more about my story, and hopefully it will encourage people and give them a little bit of hope. But I'm very excited to be back. So thank you very much.
Well, great. Well, hey, you came and you studied, you already had a master's degree in some other field, and then you came and you did a Master of Arts degree in Christian Apologetics at Houston Baptist University. That's how I met you. I think I had you for 2 courses.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So tell me, what started your interest in apologetics, in Christian apologetics? How did you become interested in it?
Well, it's I guess I would say it's kind of like a backdoor experience, because most of my adult life I've been concerned and focused on helping people who have experienced some sort of trauma come to grips with their faith, and also talking to people who left the faith or struggle with faith in God and Christ because of things that have happened to them. And so that's always kind of been my passion. And I really didn't understand exactly what apologetics was per se, but I always kind of thought of it as more the philosophical side, which didn't really hold a lot of interest for me. But when I discovered that there was a aspect of apologetics that was based on culture and it was cultural apologetics, that really appealed to me. And so I started kind of looking into avenues to maybe pursue that once I retired from social work.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that before, what got you interested. And I guess that's why you chose HBU. I guess
Yeah,
I'll do
part of the reason.
a shameless plug for the university here. As far as I know, I do think we have one of the finest, if not the finest, Christian apologetics programs in the world. And as far as I know, we're the only one that offers 2 tracks. You can go philosophical apologetics or cultural apologetics. And you chose the cultural apologetics side. I have to be honest with you, Charlotte, that's something that just hasn't interested me much, the cultural apologetics.
Yeah.
Now, some of my students earlier this year, or I think it was last year, actually, last spring, they convinced me of the value of cultural apologetics. It's just not the way that I think. It's not the way my brain is wired. But I do see its importance, and I'm glad you were involved in it. Hey, just real quickly, how was the program for you? How did you like it? And then we'll move on.
Okay. Well, first I wanted to say that the way that I got introduced to HBU per se was through my daughter, because when I retired, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, basically. And so she had already started in the program at HBU, and she encouraged me to apply, and I was a semester behind her in the program, but just that's really what helped me see that, oh, there's a cultural apologetic. So, but as far as the program, I love the program. I think the thing that was the biggest benefit, the thing I loved the most, was the sense of community, which really surprised me because I took the completely 100% online program, and you would think that there would not be that sense of community, but at HBU there really is, and that's not just among the students; it's among between the students and the professors. There's so many face-to-face events. Well, before COVID, there were, and that where we'd get together for events. And I just really feel like I have made some lifelong friends, not just with the fellow students, but also with the professors who, like you and like Dr. Ordway, Dr. Talon, Mary Jo Sharp, all of them, all of you guys have, it just forms a sense of community, and you learn from each other, you learn from the professors, and it's the way the online courses are structured. There's so much interaction that you do really get the sense that you're in a classroom. And I just really, and the quality of the reading, the help with learning to write better was just, it was very different from my master's in social work program. Let me say that, but it was very, very good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. For those reasons.
That's neat. Because I will teach courses online for HBU, and sometimes I get asked, well, what is that like? Because with COVID, we're looks like the end of the COVID at this point, at least the major part of it. We're all kind of quarantining by ourselves, and a lot of people have complained about online learning. I think those are mainly undergraduate students, because in this graduate program, most of the students, they are involved in full-time careers. They're already doing what they're doing. They're in their late 20s, they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And they're just doing this because they love it. And I don't think that they've missed a step just because it's online. And in fact, like you said, there's a lot of communication between students, faculty, and students. I don't think they've lost anything. In fact, the convenience of being able to work a full-time job and going to school like this is just amazing. So anyway, that's my shameless plug for HBU. And
it's just, and I've talked to people who have gone through other programs that are completely online, and it's a completely different experience. It really is. People, I don't know. It's just, there really is a sense of community and connectedness, and the professors obviously care about the students and care about their progress, and they help you. They're willing to work with you if you have a situation that makes it impossible to complete an assignment or to redo assignments when you don't get it exactly right. Did that a few times in your class, but
I allow students to do that on some things. Well,
because it's a learning.
If the student is there and I see that they really want to learn,
right?
And they're not
exactly
there just to get through the class, because I had a professor like that in grad school, and one time I needed a little grace, and he gave it to me, and I never forgot that. And
exactly. And I think one of the things that I remember from Dr. Ordway that has really stuck with me is that the philosophy of the program is really that, because it is very writing intensive, but she used a phrase that has really stuck with me, and that is writing as learning rather than just writing to write. But you're writing to learn. And it really is that, because, you take what you read and how each professor does it differently, but the assignments are always geared to kind of force you to dig deeper and have a better understanding of the reading through writing. And then that makes you a better apologist. And it also just made me a much better writer in terms of how I express myself. So. I thought that's, I think, a plus for the program as well. So,
Well, I had asked you to do that video, and the last I looked a couple of weeks ago, it had over 230,000 views.
yeah.
And since then, I think you started a website. I don't think, I know you have, and I've been to it. It looks like a quality website. You have a YouTube channel. Tell us about this ministry you've launched.
Well, it was interesting when you said that you're going to ask me about the ministry that I launched, because I guess in my own mind, I don't think of it that way, but I guess it kind of is. So when you first asked me to do the video, I talked to my daughter, Corinne, about it. And I was hesitant because it was a little bit scary to put that out there. And I was a little, but when I decided to do it, she was saying, she's the one that told me, she said, well, Mom, you need to get a website if you're going to do that, because, people are going to want to find you. And so you're going to need to have a website. So I did that. And she said, you can do it, Mom, just go to WordPress. You can figure it out. So I did. And so I started with just a blog site where I just posted blogs they're really, it is focused on my own healing from childhood trauma primarily, but I also have included bits and pieces of different essays that I wrote during the MAA program that I felt were relevant to that. What my goal is to really share my healing journey through the blogs and through poetry. And then when I added the video, the YouTube channel, because that was, once I saw how many views the video I did for your channel was getting, I thought, well, I probably should be doing a YouTube channel. So I started doing that. I think it's a little over a year ago, maybe, that I actually started really actively doing that. And it's called Chatting with Charlotte. And I post just 5-6 minute videos, just short little conversations about things that are happening in my life or that have happened that reflect things that have helped me in my healing process. I share inspirational scriptures sometimes little life hacks, little tools that have worked for me. And I've gotten a really good response. Now, I still don't have that many subscribers, but I've gotten some really interesting comments and responses, and I've connected with several people, a couple of ladies in Australia, and they email me. And it's just been such a joy for me to share my journey and my victory, because what I'm trying to do with that, and what I actually want to do with the book, is to help women or men or anyone who's experienced trauma to really see that there is a light at the end of that tunnel, and that you can go through something like that and you can come out on the other side and be okay. Now, my life is not perfect by any means, but I am content. And I think that I really want people to know that there's hope, and how I got to that place, so that in the middle of their struggle, they can see, okay, well, she went through all of this and she's okay. And so that's really kind of what all of my social media, the website, the book, and my YouTube channel is all about.
Wow. Well, this trauma led to you dying and
Yes.
have a near-death experience. Would you share that with us?
Sure, a briefer version than I did on the video, but yeah, when I was 11, I had my father's child. She was born on Christmas Eve when I was 11, and she was very small. And what I remember is I heard her cry.
Hang on a second.
And, yeah.
You said you had your father's child.
Yes.
Explain what was going on.
Okay, so I endured sexual, physical, and emotional abuse from my parents and other family members and others throughout my childhood. And so I started my period when I was 10. And so when I was 11, my father got me pregnant, and I had the child. And The baby did not survive, but when the baby was born, I heard her cry, and then everything just went black. And I woke up, I guess, if you want to call it wake up, but I was in this really beautiful, beautiful place. All the darkness and all the fear was gone, and there was this. It was just there was a field of silver and white grass that just was swaying in the breeze, and it was like really making music because of the wind going through it, and it felt more wonderful than anything I'd ever experienced in my life. And then I saw a man walking towards me, and he was holding an infant, and I didn't really recognize him at first, but as he got closer, I recognized him as Jesus, because I had a relationship with Jesus from a really young age, from probably about age 4. And Jesus was the person that I went to when I dissociated during abuse. And I also had conversations with him every single day. And so I knew him, but I didn't really recognize him until he got really close. And then I knew who it was. And I was very excited because, well, here he was, and here I was, and there was my baby. And I was very happy. And so I started going towards him, but I reached out to grab the child, and he told me no. He said, no, you have to go back. And I was so incredibly angry, and I couldn't understand why. And I yelled at him, and I said, I don't understand. Why do I have to go back? And he just said, because I had more work to do, which at 11, I really didn't care about that, because I just wanted to be there with him and with my infant. And then I looked off in the distance, and he started moving towards this door that was in the middle of this field. And I could hear on the other side of the door, there was music and there was laughter. And the door was just so gorgeous. It was white. It had gold all over it. And he opened the door, and there's this just amazing light shone out of that door. And he started to go towards that door, and I was begging him to let me go with him, and he said no. He said he said you'll see her again, and she'll be with me, and you will see me again, but you have to go back. And so he went through the door, closed the door, and then all the darkness came back, and I woke up, and I was back in my bedroom on the floor, and the EMS people were just shouted, "She's back, and let's get her to the hospital." And so I was really angry about that. I was angry at Jesus. I was angry that I had to come back, and I didn't understand why for a very, very long time.
Wow. Do you ever wonder why Jesus didn't just stop your dad from abusing you rather than letting it go on?
I did. I toyed with that for a long time and off and on throughout my life. But at one point, and I can't really remember how old I was, but it's something I think it was a process that I kind of came to as I understood more about God and how he interacts with his creation. I understood that my parents had their freedom to choose what they did and how they lived life. And they had a choice of whether to continue the abuse or not. And I really came to understand that God would not necessarily force them to stop, because that would be taking away their freedom to choose. But what he did was he protected my soul. And the fact that I knew he existed, I knew I had a relationship with him. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand why he didn't stop it necessarily. And I loved him. I just wasn't sure he loved me because of everything that was happening in my life. But the fact that he he protected my soul, and the fact that I knew he existed really gave me hope. And it allowed me to at least have to consider the possibility that things could be better, because he I just had that sense in me that things could be better, that there was a possibility that at some point in my life things would be different. And that is what kept me going throughout all those years of abuse.
Did the abuse stop once you came back?
No, it didn't. Now I do have to
Wow.
say, until I was 18 and I left home for college. So it was up until then. Yeah.
Now
So
you said, and I mean, we'll get into, I don't want to go too deeply into your whole experience here and the background because they can read it,
yes, they can read it in the book. Yeah.
as we'll see. Um, at the end of the near-death experience, you said Jesus told you that he had some work for you to do, and that's why you couldn't
Yes,
return. Looking in the rearview mirror now, um, can you see what that work was?
I can. Well, part of it is what I'm doing right now with sharing my story. Okay. But I think the work, I really believe that the work he had for me is he knew that I would be able to use my experience and the way that I held on to hope and all the different things that I learned along the way and the ways that I healed to help other women and men to heal from trauma as well. He he knew that if I mean I think that he wanted me to be and not an I mean he didn't let it happen so I'd be an example. That's kind of not the right way to say it, but I really feel like that he wanted me to use what happened to me to help other people. And one of the things, there was a season in my life that I really didn't even remember what had happened to me, and I went through some really difficult times, and that's discussed pretty thoroughly in the book. And I think that it's important for other people who have experienced trauma to just know that they can get through it, and to give them things that I didn't have at when I was going through this, even as a child and then as an adult trying to heal from it. So I think the work was what I'm doing now, what I did for most of my adult life. My daughter and I had a ministry for several years where we wrote a program for that very purpose, to help women who had experienced trauma to uh, combine faith and reason and imagination to get through it, and to combine psychology and what's in the Bible. And so I think that's part of the work, is to blend those two and to help other people who have experienced what I did or something similar to that.
Now, so today is June the 15th, 2021, and you have a book coming out on July 2nd. Tell us about that book.
So the title of it is What Kind of Love Is This? Finding God in the Darkness. And the focus of the book is my struggle to understand and embrace God's unconditional love, and to understand what love really is. And to do that, I sit down with my granddaughter, Angel, and have a conversation with her. And those conversations are interwoven into the book to bring the reader back from the experiences of my childhood, and as I go through the healing process, as I come back to those conversations and include those so that the reader can see, they read for a while what happened to me and the experiences I had, and then they were back in the present, and I'm talking to Angel and she's asking questions, kind of like what you did. It's like, what? Now, wait a minute. You had your father's baby at 11. I mean, those kinds of things are in the book. Like, and what I'm trying to do is to show through the lens of whatever age I am at the time, how the experience was for me. I interject conversations with Jesus and just try to really make the focus not so much the abuse, although that is definitely in there and it's a hard read for the first several chapters. But I try to limit the graphic detail of the abuse and focus more. I mean, you know what happened. I allude to it enough that you know what happened, but it's not graphically described. And I try to uh, engage with the reader in a way that helps them follow the journey, that gives them little interludes of hope through, the conversations with my granddaughter. I include some sonnets in there to that are directed at my younger self. I write some letters to my younger self in between some of the significant chapters. And so it's really just a reflection and it is a story. It's written as a story. It's not an academic book by any means or a self-help book, but it is a way of me telling my story in a way that I hope will minister to people. It was not easy for me to make the decision to write it as a story because that's not something I'm comfortable with. So it was, and that was the reason that I invited my granddaughter over so I could literally tell her the story, and then she would leave. I would write parts of it and she would come back and I'd tell her more of the story. So it was kind of a fun experience for us, or not necessarily fun, but interesting. So yeah. So that's kind of
sounds a lot like it's uniquely written and
yeah,
quite engaging. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if a person wants a copy of your book, it's not out yet, won't be out for probably another 2 weeks. But you're offering them right now. They can order them directly from you and get an autographed copy. How do they do that?
They can just go to my website, charlottethomason.com, and there's links on 2 or 3 of the pages. There is a link on the homepage, and then I have a page.
A link too in the description area of this video. Okay.
So you can get it directly from there, and it will be shipped within 3 days of the time that you order it. So there's a link on my website. So yeah, because I have them
available right now.
I do. I have them available right now. There's a limited quantity, but there's several left. So yeah, it's available right now for if you want an autographed copy. So
fantastic. And then as of July 2nd and thereafter, they can also get them at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, where?
Well, pretty much anywhere books are sold, right? It's available for pre-order right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, and several other smaller retailers right now. You can actually pre-order it. And pretty much any retail bookstore website right now, you can pre-order it.
That's fantastic. So to find out more about you, they can go to your website.
Yes.
And tell us about your YouTube channel.
Okay, so my YouTube channel, like I said, it's Chatting with Charlotte, and I have not been as good about posting as I was originally because of everything that's happening with the book. But I started posting again yesterday, and what I try to do is post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I post what I call conversations, and those are just, like I said, 5-6 minute little conversations about something that's happened that helps me or makes me think about something that happened that has to do with healing. On Saturdays, at least once a month, I post something that is what I call a life hack. One of those was I did 5 R's of taking thoughts captive. So that was a post or a series I did. And then on Sundays, about once a month, I do what's called inspirations. And I'll take a scripture and I'll talk about it as it relates to healing from trauma. So that's what I do on there. They're always very, very short, no more than 6 minutes at the most. And they're just conversations. I film them myself right here in my living room. They're unedited. It's very casual. And I really just want it to be like I'm talking to my audience, having a conversation with them. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Any final thought that we haven't discussed that you want to get out to viewers?
I think the only thing I would say is that if you've experienced trauma, don't lose hope. And I really would encourage you to, if you don't follow me, follow someone and find a place where you can get support in the community. And I think one of the things would really encourage people who have experienced trauma, that when you're looking for a support group online, be very careful and look for a support group or a site or a Facebook page or whatever that offers hope and isn't just a place where everybody talks about their misery. Because although that can be kind of good because, oh, I'm not the only one, it's really important to have hope and to follow people and talk to people that are going to encourage and give you hope. So that would be what I would say to trauma survivors. Follow me and see what I have to say, but also when you're looking, just be very careful.
Yeah, thanks so much, Charlotte. A very tragic story with a positive ending. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And if you anyone out there who's really struggling with abuse in your life, this would be a great book for you to check out. And also check out her website and her YouTube channel. Charlotte, thank you so much, my sister, for sharing your experience and taking a little time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. It's good to see you and talk to you again. So
Yeah,
thanks.
you too. God bless you, my sister.